What's up guys, Rogue9 here, and with this video I will be finally at long last expanding my head-to-head gun review series to existing operators in Rainbow Six Siege. Video by video I will be pitting the primary or secondary guns of the old operators against each other to provide an objective, stats-based conclusion on which is the better choice for which kind of playstyle or in which situation. And since Ash has been at the center of a lot of debate recently, why don't we finally settle the score between the R4-C and G36C? Everyone knows that the R4-C is the superior weapon, right? But could there be any situation at all in which the G36 might be worth using? Time to crunch some numbers and find out once and for all. Let's go! Going by the in-game stats, the R4-C has always looked to be the outright superior weapon for Ash, so we will be looking past the obvious stats and comparing some experimental data in order to decide whether or not the G36 could be a valid choice in any possible scenario. First and foremost though, one of the most important factors when choosing which gun to use is always the damage output, and here the R4-C wins out over the G36 with a double whammy advantage. It does a little more damage per shot at all ranges, and even more importantly, it also has a significantly better fire rate. This of course results in a significantly better damage output per second for the R4-C, and the unfortunate combination of low damage per shot and slow fire rate make the G36 one of the weakest rifles in the game, only undercut by Nomad's new AK-74M and Blackbeard's Mark 17. But the damage output per second is of course only a theoretical value. In reality, the difference between 38 damage and 39 damage is negligible, and at reasonable combat ranges, both guns will require the exact same number of body shots to down an opponent. But that is where the fire rate of the R4-C comes up trumps once again. Not only will it deliver better times to kill for body shots, but it will also make it easier to achieve those all-important headshots. And last but not least, while one extra point of damage at ranges up to 25 meters won't make much of a difference, the minimum damage of 25 versus 23 will actually mean that the G36 requires one extra body shot at long ranges against level 1 and level 3 armor. Long story short, the numbers confirm without a doubt that in terms of killing power, the R4-C is simply the superior weapon. But let's continue with the comparison, and maybe we'll find some stats that will make the G36 worth considering. Capacity is the same for both guns, but the G36 is a little quicker to reload, especially when you go for a tactical reload instead of a full reload from empty. Is that enough to make the G36 viable? No, but I'm calling this a step in the right direction. Aim down sight time is the standard 450 milliseconds for both guns, but the G36 has the option of attaching the angled grip, which does allow us to cut down the time by 40% to a pretty swift 270 milliseconds. And this is where the G36 saving grace may lie. As long as the G36 stays controllable enough without the vertical grip, maybe having a really competitive ADS time could make the G36 the better choice for Ash players that like to rush the objective. The quicker you can get your sights onto an opponent after bursting into a room, the better your chances of winning the gunfight. So in order to decide if this is a viable tactic, both the hipfire spread and recoil need to be considered. Better hipfire spread not only helps with the hip firing, but can also save a couple of frames when aiming down sights, as I demonstrated in my Nomad gun analysis video. Sadly, the hipfire spreads for both of Ash's guns are virtually identical, with only a couple of pixels difference here and there, and if anything, the R4-C actually has a tiny advantage. So the only factor left that could give us some kind of a use case for the G36 is recoil, and to be fair, the in-game recoil charts both with and without attachments show that the G36 has slightly less muzzle climb and a slightly smaller randomized recoil factor, which Ubisoft refers to as the recoil diamond. I confirmed these recoil patterns with my own in-game tests, and good news everyone, they appear to be accurate. Is the G36 with an angled grip as easy to control as the R4-C with a vertical grip? No, absolutely not. The inherent recoil advantage is just not enough for this, but I did go ahead and I ran a comparative test to see if I would be able to control the G36 enough to make an angled grip viable, and my conclusion here would be that it can be done. Angled grip G36 is not as easy to control as with the vertical grip, but it's not impossible, so the tiny flame of hope that I held for this iconic rifle is just about still alive. The fact is that the R4-C is the superior rifle in terms of the stats that are the most important for most players. It has a significant fire rate advantage and, especially at longer ranges, also significant damage advantage. The only possible reason for any player to pick the G36C would be to make use of the angled grip and thereby the faster ADS time. If you love rushing your opponents and you're happy to take on the slightly higher recoil of an angled grip G36, you may actually be able to get a bit of an advantage out of this rifle, but sadly that is just about it. For anyone else, the R4-C will remain the better option in my opinion. So nothing too surprising here, but for completeness sake, I want to continue with this series by looking into other operators' weapon choices. One that really intrigues me is the choice between the LA85 and AR33 for Thatcher. What other characters' guns would you like me to compare? Let me know in the comments section below. And with that, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and I will see you in the next episode.